Welcome back to the Scorched Earth. We are with the running for Congress in the 23rd District, Paul Chakalian. Apologies for the mispronunciation there. And we are up in the beautiful mountains of San Bernardino, and environmentalism has always been kind of a big thing for me. I moved up to the mountains because of the beautiful lake, the beautiful forest, being at one with nature, kind of a Zen thing. And unfortunately, in Trump 1.0, the assault on environmental regulations, protections was aghast. It was terrible, but it seems like it has ramped up to an amazing level in this administration. We have many situations where national parks are being cut by a quarter, by a third, so that commercial and corporate interests can satisfy their lust for another dollar and destroying this beautiful nature that we live in. We have Paul here. He is running on, I guess, an environmental platform too?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm running on a common sense, people first platform.
Right, yeah.
We need politicians that are focusing on helping people live happy, prosperous, dignified lives.
Right.
That's my platform. And part of that, of course, is the environment, because we live in the environment.
Right.
And I don't want to be living in a world where my kids, depending on what zip code I'm in, there might be lead-infused water or natural gas-infused water coming out of my pipes. I mean, that's less of an issue here, but I think many of us have seen the videos from some of the middle of the country states where there's oil wells nearby and fracking and just the insanity. So yeah, it's not the tip of our spear of our campaign here, just because it's not the tip of the spear for most people's concerns and day-to-day crises that they're living with right now. So sorry, I have to cough.
All right. Well, to your point, Paul.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. To your point, I grew up in a Southern California community that was at the base of Mount Baldy. It was called Upland, and literally through my entire childhood, half the days I couldn't see the mountain, which was 20 miles away, because smog was so prevalent. And now every day when I go see my mom, I can see the majestic mountain. And after a while, we take things for granted. We take clean water for granted. We take clean air. We take the elimination of smog for granted, and we move on to the next problem. This is an administration that has no problems polluting our air, our water, our streams, because they have a corporate donor who gives them enormous amounts of money for political contributions so that they can make a little more money off the pollution and the destruction of us as a human species.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It was much worse in the 50s and the 60s, the pollution and the environmental degradation that was happening. And there were great successes to the environmental movement over the last several decades. And I think we've now just taken for granted, exactly like you said, the current landscape we live in, and we don't realize that all these laws that, with the EPA being cut and rolled back, and with new oil wells being allowed to be permitted, and just all these protections being kind of quietly removed, it's not very obvious because we don't feel it right now, but in 10 or 15 years, that's where we're going to head back to. We're going to head back to those smog days. We're going to head back to waterways in cities across the country that you can't swim in. That's what it was like when I was a kid. You would never dream of swimming in a waterway that crisscrosses a city, and many cities around the country have now reversed that and made it possible. And so we're going to head back in the wrong direction. And it's not a sexy topic. It's not things that get people to write protest signs. Normal people, Greenpeace will be out there doing it.
Sure.
But regular people, it's not what really riles you up. But it really matters, and it's really important, and it's really sad to think about what's being allowed to happen on our watch. And by our watch, I mean all of us living humans right now, our generation, who are the stewards of this world that we're going to leave on to our kids and their kids. And what's being allowed to happen on our watch is really sad, and frankly it's embarrassing, and I'll be embarrassed to have to explain to my kids why these things were rolled back, why we reversed on the progress we were making, because there's no good explanation, there's no good answer except for greed and selfishness.
Amen. I think there is a misnomer in the public culture of regulations are bad, laws are bad. Let me give you a little spoiler here, and I'm sure everybody listening understands this. The reason we enact laws is because somebody did something evil. Somebody did something that threatens people's lives, and we don't catch them on the first time. We don't catch them on the second time. It's when they've dumped chemical waste into a lake for the 1,000th time, that finally we get these high tide politicians off their butt to finally draft some legislation like you're talking about. And when we start rolling these protections back, what are they going to do? Why would they want to? If anybody out there who believes corporate interests care about our well-being, I think you're reading a fairy tale there.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, the cigarette industry, the tobacco industry, for how long was trying to get us all addicted to their product? They knew it killed us. So, no, clearly, profit doesn't. Sometimes is aligned with keeping your user alive, but not always.
Yes,
and so we can't take that for granted. And listen, I own a distilling company, an alcohol business. I manufacture alcohol and I sell it to the public and to wholesalers, sometimes across state lines, sometimes across international borders. I deal with regulation. I deal with a lot of regulation, and you could hear me complain all day and all night about the types of forms and paperwork and things I have to do that aren't common sense, that don't make sense, and that are often counterproductive. You know, you have people just breaking the law because it's too onerous or difficult to follow the law. So we need to always be cognizant of making sure that our regulations can and will actually be followed, and can and will actually result in the thing that we're trying to create, the outcome that we're trying to create. And I will, to give to the credit of the conservatives and the libertarians, that the government isn't always the best at that. And we need to work harder on making sure that the regulation we do have in place is sensible and actually helpful and will have the net result we want. And we should always be, like hawks, making sure that every regulation we pass, is really effective and common sense. But we can never just walk away from all of them, because that's where you end up with a situation where these private interests, these corporations, are poisoning us. They're destroying our environment. They're destroying the opportunities of our future generations to earn a buck. And that's just unacceptable. And this isn't hypothetical. We saw it play out for a couple hundred years. Like you said, this is why we built the EPA. This is why we put those protections in place, because unfettered, self-interested capitalism, after the Industrial Revolution, showed us its evils. It showed us the problems. We learned that was not working, and that's why we put these systems in place. And where there are regulations that are not having the intended result, that people aren't following, or that are having, negative side effects, or that are too onerous, suppressing new small businesses getting into the market, I will be the first one in line to say we need to reevaluate those, we need to fix those, we need to revise those to make them more efficient and effective. But you cannot throw the baby out with the bathwater. And unfortunately, that's what's happening right now. And they're doing it on purpose. They're doing it on purpose so they can give their friends private contracts, so they can mine more of our land, they could extract more of our water, they could cut down more of our trees, they could get out more of our oil, and they don't care what that leaves our kids or their kids, or what that leaves us in the here and now. And they should be embarrassed of themselves.
Absolutely. And I'm going to go back into the healthcare thing for a real quick second. There's a lot of differences between Democrats and Republicans, but the Republicans have this view. Let's just take SNAP for instance. They would rather starve 97 people because 3 people are committing fraud. The Democrats would say, I don't care about the 3, I want to feed the 97. With environmental regulations, you're right. There are some that need to be modified, some that need to be taken care of. I understand that, but you don't throw out the bulk of them, because the majority of them are protecting us, our kids, our families, our friends from devastating consequences of being poisoned, things like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, like you said, we take it for granted. How many Americans do you know that travel internationally and kind of look down their nose at, is that water safe to drink? Is that food safe to eat? Is that alcohol in that bottle actually what it says it is? Or, we're so judgmental and sort of elitist about these other backward countries. And then we come back here and we try and create that here. We try and dismantle the systems and the people that are making sure that our products are labeled correctly and our things are safe to eat and our streets are safe to walk on and all the rest. And so we can't take this stuff for granted. It takes constant vigilance to make sure that the bad actors amongst us, the selfish, self-interested, greedy people amongst us, don't screw us all over. And that's what government is for. Government is our system to make sure that we're all treating each other well, and that there's not bad apples amongst us who are exploiting the group for their own personal gain. And that's what's been happening with Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and the rest. And for some reason, one political party has been able to convince their voters that it's somehow in their collective interest to give all of their money, give all of their resources, give all of their value to these like 10 billionaires. And it's, it's not reality. It's a total fantasy. There's no universe in which Elon Musk making $1 trillion means that you're going to be better off.
Right.
Like the logical breakdown there is just absurd. Like that is never going to help you. And it doesn't need to happen, and we don't need to allow it, and we don't need to live in a world like this, and we need to be fighting to live in a common sense, respectful, compassionate, dignified civilization, not barbaric wilderness where you just, the most you could take, the most you could grab is what you get.
Right.
And that's how it is in these extracted industries. And a lot of people don't know, and this is topical up here in the mountains with Lake Arrowhead not far away. A lot of people don't realize there's this mining law from the 19th century, the 1800s. I forget the exact years, like 1817 or something like that. But that mining law, it's still in effect. It's still what we use today. And that's the law that with westward expansion and manifest destiny and all that, the government on the East Coast, they wanted America to take over the whole continent. And so to incentivize these industrialists to move west, they said, if you go stake that claim, if you go find that gold deposit, that grove of trees that's really good to cut down and mill, and you take the risk of scurvy and Native Americans hurting you or whatever happening, that you could reap the rewards of selling those products. Yes. And that made a certain sort of sense at the time, but that is still the law today, and it no longer makes any sense. Right. And what that law means is that these water companies, for example, we're in California, so this matters. They're pulling all that water out of the ground, and they're paying $0.
Amen.
$0. That's my water. That's your water. That's our water. These companies are paying $0. And they're selling it for whatever the hell they want.
Right.
And our politicians, Nestle and all the rest, and our politicians, they don't even talk about this law from the 19th century. They don't even propose legislation to close this loophole because their donors and the lobbyists like it this way. Absolutely. And I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, we need leaders who will be real with us, who will be honest, and who will fight for common sense, people first policies.
People first. Welfare of your constituents, of your people, I think, and I appreciate that is the true priority of this campaign, right? Everybody talks about they care about us, but really it's all about how can I get on the jet, how can I get the money, how can I get the golf trip. And to your point, and I know this, I came up in a construction background, and we take for granted all our houses being safe.
Yeah.
Let's go back 2 weeks ago in Hong Kong, one of the most thriving metropolises in this world. 125 people died in a high-rise fire because they didn't have fire escapes, they didn't have extinguishers, they didn't have safe elevators. We take for granted that here.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to go too long, but just as an example, I have a single bedroom home that burned down next to where my dad lives in Yucca Valley. It's burned to the ground. There was trash piled up in the backyard because we don't have trash service. We're a rural area. I mean, this property was a blight in the neighborhood, and I bought it as an investment for very cheap. I fixed it up. It was a pain in the butt, and it took a couple years, and because I tried to keep my costs down, but we got it looking really nice with a new metal roof and a nice coat of paint and landscaping, and that was a benefit to my neighborhood. And I put on the back part of the property, I purchased a used shipping container, a 40-foot shipping container. Now this property is in a commercial area. It's grandfathered in as residential, but it's surrounded by like a plumber and commercial things. I put this shipping container there because I needed it to store stuff for other parts of my life. Now, shipping containers are engineered products. There's a bunch of really smart people that figured out the thickness of the steel, the shape of the box to make sure that it doesn't break, that it doesn't collapse, that it is safe and secure for its intended use. And the town wanted me to pour a concrete foundation, put like rebar in, attach the container to the foundation. Basically, the town wanted me to spend almost as much as I spent fixing up that house just to have this container exist there. Now, I could have parked an RV full of rats and meth heads, no permit required. But to have this shipping container, and I pleaded and I said, look, I'm helping our neighborhood. I'm like a small business owner. I'm improving the neighborhood. You're making it too hard. I don't have the money to do everything you want. And I'm still battling with that. So like, I am very sympathetic to small government voters who just want the government to go away. I think these permitting officials, these regulators, they just create problems. They're keeping me down. I get it. It's frustrating. And an example like that makes no sense. An example like that, I won't defend. That should not be the law.
Correct.
But that doesn't mean we get rid of all regulation. That doesn't mean we get rid of all governance. That doesn't mean we just get rid of society as we know it. And so we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest with our voters about the need for regulation and the need to be aware and to improve when there are regulations that are not effective and not efficient and don't make sense.
Well said. And if you have any room for meth heads, I got some relatives who are going to contact you after this podcast. All right, we're going to kind of wind it down here, but if you've heard what he has had to share, Paul's had to share, and I appreciate your time, this is somebody who understands our American dream. This is somebody who can actually do realistic things to improve our life, not just the word salad, not just the political nuance that they do and then 2 weeks later they change. This is somebody who's had our journey. This is somebody who understands what his electric bill, what his grocery bill is. I can tell you right now, Jay Obernati does not know either one of those. All he is figuring out is how I can enrich myself with my next political donor at Mar-a-Lago or on the jet or whatever. This is a person who understands our struggle, and if we want solutions to the problems that persist in our everyday life, we have to know somebody who's actually going through them ourselves. Anything else you'd like to finish up with, my friend?
No, I appreciate that. And I just want to say, we haven't talked about it, but I hate money in politics. And maybe, hopefully that was just obvious. But I hate asking for money. It's the worst part of this job. And I hate the fact that anybody has to give money to any politician. Right. This is not the way our democracy should work. I am a firm believer in public financing of campaigns. I think you should get enough signatures that qualifies you to be on the ballot. You get the same budget as everybody else. You have 2 weeks to run. You can't run political ads outside. Not 2 weeks, maybe 2 months, 3 months. And other countries do this. Other industrial countries do this. And I think it is much fairer and will result in a much more representative government. And I will fight to get us there. But unfortunately, in the meantime, that's not where we're at. And so, yeah, we have to ask for donations.
I couldn't agree with you more. I do wish in a world where Citizens United did not exist and all the dark, evil money that the Supreme Court perpetuates. I am going to put a plea out there to everybody watching this. If you can, I understand it's the holiday season. I understand the times are tough economically. If you can give to this campaign for somebody who represents us as a people, please do. It doesn't have to be a lot of money, any amount of money, because at this point, let's call it what it is, he is not part of the corporate fat cap circle, right? He is doing this on his own. He is someone who has a vision for us, who wants to make our democracy and our economy a better place. This is our moment. This is kind of like our forefathers going to World War II, fighting for us. No, hold on a second. This is our battle. We are not in the trenches, but we're fighting for our democracy. We're fighting for the economy and the disparity that is going on between the elites and just the middle class. It's getting more and more exacerbated each and every day. This is somebody who understands our plight. All I'm saying is, if you can, please give whenever you can. If you can't, God bless you. Make sure you vote for this man. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. No, that's wonderful. I appreciate it.
All right. That's it today from Scorched Earth. Hit the like and subscribe. And please follow Paul on social media. We'll put a link in the bio at the end. And we'll see you soon on the Scorched Earth.